reliability. If you say you're going to do something, do something. So when are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? It's et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's easy to speak, but you've got to be able to do what you're going to say you're going to do. And so for me, probably the most powerful word in the English language is reliability.
Welcome to Your Next Big Project is You, a podcast based around the theme of time. Time to be able to press pause on life. Time to reevaluate what's important. Time to reminisce about where you've come from, what you've learned, and what you've accomplished. Time to revisit your goals, dreams, and vision. And time to remember the people in your life. That's it, my friends. If you've got time, fasten your seatbelt and listen in as we discuss opportunities for the next 5 to 25 years of your life. And remember, your next big project is you. Welcome to our podcast. Your next big project is you. And I've got a special guest today. Boy, somebody I met, I think it's a couple decades ago, Peter, probably with your study group. And we've talked on and off, seems like every other year or so, we're communicating. But welcome to our podcast today, Peter Maller. Peter, welcome to the show today.
Thanks for having me, Leo. It's great to catch up with you. And it certainly has been a couple of decades. And your energy is infectious. So I always love chatting with you.
You know, what an amazing career and life journey that you've had. From growing up in South Africa, compulsory military training, taking you to the U.S., to Washington College to play tennis, to coaching tennis at Florida State, to building a world-class wealth management firm. What an amazing journey, Peter. Let's begin there with some of your thoughts that come to your mind in that life journey from South Africa to sitting in the Maryland area right now.
Yeah, you know, you can't even script this out. You know, it's just you do need to step back and kind of look back at the journey. And I don't do that often enough, quite frankly. So thank you for laying that out. It's unbelievable, Leo. It really is. And I don't even really know how to explain it, except to say that I think I just took advantage of the next opportunity, and that just took me from, you know, one step to another, and all the lessons I learned along the way, I try to incorporate into my next venture. So, you know, I've had this. I've been very fortunate. We have such an amazing financial planning practice. Our team members are just incredible. We've had loyal clients for decades. You know, most of them have become really good friends of mine. But, you know, when I think back, I think about all the lessons I learned on the tennis court that I have incorporated into my financial planning practice. And there are multiple lessons that I learned to try and be the best that I could be. And I've used those same lessons to try and be the best, you know, financial planner and have the best financial planning team that we can possibly be. So that's kind of my response to your question / comment.
Well, let's take that to the level of the firm that you built. When we really started discussing this, you said that you built a firm for today and for tomorrow. This is taking your firm from beyond managing investments, or as you said, we built a phenomenal world-class financial planning, wealth management firm. But issues today that you and I have talked about, health, longevity, multi-generational planning, are now part of your services in discussions with your prospects and clients. Tell us about your thinking here and how this has progressed over the last few years.
Well, that's right. And you know, as I have become more seasoned, experienced, older myself, it kind of dawned on me that for, 30 odd years, I was helping people accumulate assets for their retirement. And then it dawned on me that not everyone is going to have the good fortune to maybe live that long and enjoy the fruits of their labor. And so I don't think you can just focus on accumulating assets for your retirement without also spending a lot of time on health and longevity, so that you can be around to enjoy those assets, and live a fulfilling life once your working years are over. And so I personally, in the last couple of years, have spent a lot more time on this topic of longevity and what it takes to live a fulfilling life and a long life that not just long, but it has to be long and quality together. So that was the one aspect of it. And then the other aspect of it was making sure that I had a decent succession team at work. I'm not going to be around forever, and I never want our loyal clients and their kids and grandkids to run into the situation where all of a sudden Peter Maller's not around, and now what do we do? And so I want this to be a sustainable practice that focuses on accumulating assets and then health and longevity.
Yeah, those are so important themes today. In so many advisors, they're still stuck in that, simply the investment management paradigm. And many of them, do a wonderful job, but they're myopic by my degrees. There's a lot of other aspects of people's wealth as we get into multi-generational planning, and as you said, health, longevity, some of the other issues of integration of taxes and legal consequences, philanthropic decisions. There's a lot of things brewing in clients' minds these days and on their desk.
No, that's right. And we really have spent a lot of time on the investment management side, on the financial planning side, and the estate planning side, but we just haven't spent enough time trying to help ourselves and help our clients with staying healthy, and really living a fulfilling life when retirement hits. And so I think just bringing that aspect to the table now, we talk about value proposition. That is now part of our value proposition as we move forward.
Yeah. You see that oxygen mask over my shoulder here. I mean, that's my visual reminder every day for health and longevity and putting my own oxygen mask on first. Heck, I'm just thinking, you and I are recording this, starting off the new year here in 2024. And I just had 17 family members, my kids and my wife and the four kids and 7 grandkids, and all celebrating our, kicking off the new year together. If guys like you and I, or you're not helping your clients put their oxygen mask on first as they're thinking about their futures, their health and the longevity issues, if we're just in that investment paradigm, there's going to be a little hole in the gas tank here or something at some point. It's going to hit us.
And that's exactly right. And as a business owner, working with a lot of business owners, we talk about the 3-legged stool: yourself, your team members, and your clients or your patients. And so even as it pertains to you and me, which leg is the most important? We debate this all day long, and I've come to the conclusion that all 3 of them are equally important. Obviously, you have to take care of your clients and your patients. Obviously, you've got to take care of your folks at work, otherwise they're not going to stick around. But if you're not taking care of yourself either, everything falls to pieces. And so just critically important to focus on all 3 legs of the stool.
Yeah. Peter, that's a good segue over to this concept you shared with me. You call it the freedom concept. Tell us more about that and how that originated and how you bring that alive to your clients today.
No, that's right, Leo. And so it was really a thought I had a couple of years ago as our clients were starting to retire from their primary avocation, if you will, and just thinking about what it felt like to move to their next phase of life. And so, when you think about busy executives, when you think about CEOs, when you think about physicians that are running practices, there's a huge amount of responsibility that goes along with that role. there's a huge amount of time commitment. There's a huge amount of pressure. It is never ending. If you take it seriously, which we all should, that's just par for the course, right? You got to deal with all of those things. And so, this concept came to mind where we would help clients get to the point where they could retire if they chose to. But what came along with that was not just the ongoing revenue stream that would allow them to live a fulfilling life, but it was the freedom of time that came along with it too. It was the freedom of less responsibility. It was the freedom to dictate what kind of a life they now wanted to lead going forward. And so I think I wrote down about 30 freedoms. It's a brilliant exercise for anyone to do, all the things that come along where you can actually focus a little bit more on yourself and kind of let go of all of those responsibilities and pressures that you had in the past.
Yeah. I love that when you're challenging people to put something down on paper that they have maybe always dreamed of or thought of, and you're helping them to get there. A beautiful part of your value proposition, I'm sure, is helping people to achieve that freedom at some point in their life. I'm sure there's some cousin of those words that's related to the way you articulate it to people.
No, that's right. And it's been really interesting because people have, very different ideas of what that is to them. And so for some of them, it's fun things like the freedom to go and play every great golf course I've heard about around the world. And for others, it's the freedom to go and visit grandkids in different states or different parts of the world. And so it's different for everyone, but it is darn meaningful to each one of them, whatever that may be.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Hey, one of the other discussion points we talked about, and the thing I love about you so much, I believe we share a thirst for intellectual curiosity. I'm always giving a shout out to other authors, and I must have 200-300 books on the other side of these doors in my office here, in my own personal library. Well, one of the authors is Arthur Brooks, who's written the book From Strength to Strength. And I actually give you credit. And Arthur, if you're ever watching this someday, plug out to you. One of the things as I was reading Arthur's book that resonated with you was about the issue of vulnerabilities. A light bulb went off so much with you and your thinking here. I was curious your take on this.
Yeah. He writes such a good book. And by the way, Leo, you have a few books under your belt, and I've read them all, and they are just tremendous. And so,
Thank you.
We appreciate everything that you've scribed for us. Arthur Brooks, From Strength to Strength. The notion is that there's actually hope for all of us in the second phase of life. Right. And how do you transition to that second phase in life? And he talks about going from knowledge to wisdom and then sharing that wisdom in some capacity. Just very, very powerful stuff. And reinventing yourself and trying new things. And so I won't get into all aspects of the book, but you're right. One of the things that really struck me was the discussion he had about sitting around a table with new people, and instead of sharing all the accolades and all the things that you've done well over the course of your life, how about sharing some of the vulnerabilities, some of the things that have really scared you, some of the things that have held you back, some of the ways where you haven't quite been successful. And he says, and I really and firmly believe this, that's what brings people together, discussing vulnerabilities, not trying to one-up everyone sitting around the table. And listen, I'm as guilty as most. You tend not to share those vulnerabilities for many different reasons. But I think if you can actually let go of them and share them with friends and potentially new friends, it just brings people together. There's a connection that people feel a lot less vulnerable and are more apt to want to get closer to you.
Yeah. I've always said, Peter, when you hear your own voice, the real learning begins. And when you shift from hi, I'm Leo Pusateri or Peter Maller. We've accomplished this. How do you like it so far? And right away, people are body language. You can almost see it coming down. But when it's Leo and Peter opening up about the vulnerabilities in our life, when our authentic voice comes out, when we're speaking in without being concerned about how we might be looked at, that to me is from my experiences from the recent work I've done, is when people put their collective arms around each other.
Right.
And they want to go deeper. What happened to you there? When did that start? When you're walking and during a break, people want to pull you aside and say, you know what? I can't tell you how much I appreciate you speaking from your heart. That really resonated. But the ones that are just saying, hey, look at what I've done. Look at what I've accomplished. Look at what I've achieved. Those are the ones that people are walking the other way during that break.
I firmly believe that. And there was another book that I had read in the last 2 or 3 years called The Untethered Soul by an author by the name of Michael Singer. And he touches on a very similar topic as well. And so I think that surfaces in his teachings. And he actually talks about this little voice in one's head that gets in the way of everything that's good. And if you listen to that little voice, there's always a conversation going on in someone's head. If you just stop and sit for a second, listen to the voice in your head. And oftentimes it can be annoying and negative and what have you. And you need to turn that into, you have the choice, right? To turn that into something really, really positive. And so I think between The Untethered Soul and From Strength to Strength, huge impact on my life.
Yeah, I couldn't concur anymore, buddy. I totally agree with that. It brings me back to something that it's almost a tearful moment, probably for the two of us, when I think about some of the things you and I talked about. We were sharing thoughts about our families, how we grew up, the impact of our parents had on us to this day, as we think and salute them for the life they gave us, mainly in terms of the core values, how you were taught, how I was taught. But one of the things that we had in common as we were reminiscing was about how much our mothers impacted our lives. A lot of times we talk about dads and things, but we were talking specifically in our conversation about moms, your mom, my mom, the sensitivity that your mom had, that had an influence on you, the man that you are, the husband that you are, the father that you are, the business owner that you have. Tell us what you can about mom, how her love and her values and have influenced you and live with you to this day, my friend. That fire, the flame is still lit for you from your mom. Tell us about that.
Yeah, no, and that's right. And there are two sides to that story for me. Both mom and dad were extremely loving. They always put their kids first. They did everything they possibly could to give us a good life, and that included a good education. All the sports we played, and the travels that they had to make to come and support us, and they valued education. That was really important to them. So they pushed us a little bit in that regard. And so certainly my dad was a doctor. My mom was a nurse, actually. And interesting fact there, the guy that did the first heart transplant in the world was a guy by the name of Chris Barnard. He happened to be a South African guy. I think he studied at the University of Minnesota, went back to South Africa, and he did the first heart transplant. Well, one of his nurses was my mom.
Wow, what a story.
Yeah, so pretty cool. So both my folks grew up in the medical profession. My mom eventually did stay at home. I have two older sisters, so there are three of us. And so she was very instrumental in our upbringing. And so the one aspect that kind of carries forward to me is that mom was not always the most consistent of people. And so there were times where she would kind of lose her cool a little bit. Even if we had friends over from time to time, we weren't quite sure how mom was going to react. And so what that did for me, I didn't really enjoy it at the time, but it gave me the sense of really being able to kind of pick up on people's feelings just through body language. And it has so helped me in my profession, where I want people to feel comfortable. And if people are uncomfortable or they have questions, I want to bring that out of them so that we can address those kind of things. And so just interestingly, and almost in a negative way, that aspect of my mom has absolutely helped me in what I do on a day-by-day basis in the financial planning profession.
Yeah. I bet you if we asked people, think of a nurse that you might have come in contact with, and what are their best qualities? The ones that maybe you were treated in a doctor's office, in a healthcare facility, a hospital, what have you. And I bet you they would be talking all the same qualities that client service folks in our industry, but people like you that have built a culture of really a culture of caring based around the sensitivities of people's emotions are, to me, the people that really stand out, the people that recognize that, the people talk about you in ways when you're not around, where they like you, they trust you, they value you so much because of how much you care. And so much of that a reflection of what your mom taught you. And I know that's one of the biggest things I learned from my little old Sicilian mom, quite honestly, was how much she cared.
Yeah.
How much she cared.
I think that's what this is all about. You know, when we were trying to come up with slogans for our firm, one of the ones that we thought about was "We care." That we were just going to keep it simple, and then we thought, well, maybe that's too simple, and so now, you know, our slogan, not now, but the slogan we chose was, "There's not much competition along the extra mile," so to speak. So. You know, just the point that we're willing to go the extra mile, and maybe not everyone else does that. But the other thing that I would say to that, Leo, is that we certainly wanted our team to be ultra caring and come across as being perceived as being completely trustworthy. And so when we bring on a new team member onto our team, there are 2 books they have to read. It is mandatory. The one is The Trusted Advisor. Steve Meister is the author of that, and it all revolves around this formula of trust is equated to reliability, intimacy, and there's a third one, which is credibility. So credibility plus reliability plus intimacy divided by self-orientation. You want the scores in the numerator to be high, and you want the score in the denominator, the self-orientation, to be low. Put others, first. And so that's the one they have to read. And then the other book they have to read is the grammar book, because we think it is so important to be able to communicate clearly. And so it might seem weird that for a financial planning firm, we're getting people to kind of focus on books that have nothing to do with numbers. One is trust and one is communication.
Yeah, I love it. What a great way to instill in someone's career right out of the gate, but also to be part of your culture of how you lead, how you manage, how you coach, and it goes right into your client scenario. So one of the other things that stood out to me, just a couple final questions here, with this burning desire that I believe you have to impact people's lives. This comes through to me loud and clear every time I talk to you. And when we discuss this, I could feel your passion, especially when you shared one of your business beliefs, which reads, trust precedes impact. Let's discuss that. Trust precedes impact, and your burning desire to have an impact on people's lives. Say more, my friend.
Yeah. I don't think you can do anything until a client or a patient has full trust in you. And so the beginning of any relationship has to revolve around doing whatever it takes to be trustworthy. And so I go back to that formula. I have to have credibility, right? Do I know my stuff? Have I spent time studying? Have I been, reading Leo Pusatteri's books? Have I been going to seminars? Am I staying current and compliant and all those kind of things? Really important. Reliability. If you say you're going to do something, do something. So when are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? It's et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's easy to speak, but you've got to be able to do what you're going to say you're going to do. And so for me, probably the most powerful word in the English language is reliability. And we preach that all day long. And then there is the intimacy factor. So I don't think anyone's going to have trust with you and me if we can't get close to them, right? Or they can't get close to us. And so competency and reliability are important, but you got to be able to connect. And so the intimacy factor is clearly important. And certainly clients are not going to want to work with you if it's all about me and if I'm the beneficiary of the relationship. It has to be the other way around. And so once trust has been established, then the idea of making an impact in a client's life, there's nothing more important to me. I've never put money ahead of that. It's always been about pleasing the client and making an impact and being there for them all the way through, during good times and during not so good times.
Wow. Well said, buddy. It's interesting, just to end this today. There's so many shared concepts we have about our futures and things that are exciting us and driving our passion today. I'm working a lot around helping people. I'm truly trying to helping people to make a difference in their own life and to make a difference in the life of others, which you are doing. The people that you're privileged to serve, the families now, multi-generationally, helping them to think through issues so they're living their lives with no regrets. They're living their lives with more gratitude, being abundant, thinking of their time and their talent and their treasure, thinking about having greater perspective, which you brought from growing up, quite honestly, what, in apartheid to where you're at today. I mean, think of the perspective you have from South Africa military days to serving clients today, and how trust and impact and caring and all these things come together in your life. My gosh, it's just this amazing, compelling story. When you think about this, Peter, in terms of helping people to achieve their legacies now, to do something that's meaningful in those years ahead, which of those, any of those concepts ring a bell to you? Making a difference in one's life, living a legacy, living with greater perspective, more gratitude. What resonates with you from some of those themes there?
Yeah, I think it's a two-way street, Leo. And so there's so much that I learn along the way from my clients, and everyone has things that are more important to them than maybe someone else. And so you talk about going from knowledge to wisdom. Not that I'm the wisest guy on earth, but I certainly pay attention. And I think you really learn what's important to the folks you're working with. You better be asking that question, and then you do your absolute best to try and help them get to that point. Sometimes they reach that point and realize it's not important to them, and then you adjust accordingly. But a lot of the wisdom that I have gained is just from listening to clients and going along their journeys with them as I go along my journey. Obviously, having kids, I have 4 kids, 2 girls and 2 boys. I have a lovely wife of almost 20 years now. And so, that dynamic in itself teaches you many, many lessons. And so at the end of the day, I think realizing what is most important to one, that is happiness and gratitude and giving back and all the things you just talked about, living a life of abundance and not scarcity. I think all of that resonates as we deal with our friends and clients.
I would think many of those concepts probably show up on your freedom brainstorming session. when you think about this, freedom to be able to do what you want to do, freedom to be able to give more, freedom to be able to help other people in need, freedom to make a difference,
they do.
with more time to do it. Those things have got to come in your list.
That's right. And just the concept of living a life of abundance, just the freedom to think big and have the time to go and make these things happen. Just so powerful, Leo.
Yeah. Hey, Peter, thank you for joining us today. What a pleasure. You've been a gift in my life since I first met you. What a true world-class practitioner, a world-class guy in every aspect. I'm blessed to know you, my friend. Thank you so much for joining the show today.
Hey, right back at you, Leo.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
God bless.
All the best.